without the public hearing indefinitely. So you would,
For this specific fund? Is it,
for this specific fund, yes.
have you got some suggested wording for us?
If you read through 3119, the opening in general, isn't that probably in your books right here? Isn't that what those books are?
Yeah,
No,
RSAs?
that's land use.
Oh, okay.
So,
Right, well, there. Here's what I have on
yeah.
that. And I have that also confirmed by Attorney Puffer in one of those emails from November. We talked about that.
so just take Article
31,
Roman numeral 1 and make a warrant article out of it.
pretty much.
Okay,
And then make it
take
indefinitely.
the third and put the indefinite language in,
Yeah.
or until rescinded.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
That eliminates additional work.
I guess, are we talking warrant articles now?
Yes, we are.
I guess I'd ask the chair if it would be all right to engage the chairman of the budget committee on one warrant article.
Absolutely, go ahead.
So,
So she doesn't mind being engaged.
got a lollipop out of your mouth to get to work.
Yeah.
What's
I'm sorry. So it's been a long day, so I'm a little crazy. But the warrant article that was Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $50,000 to establish a trust fund for the payment of health insurance. Do you see that going anywhere? I mean, we're a wicked split now. We might have 3 votes for it.
We do, however, there was one for sure maybe, and then the reason that I voted no against
Let's
it was the
remind me.
amount.
The amount? You didn't think it was enough?
Wasn't
I
enough?
didn't think it was enough. And then another member thought that he just kind of wanted to think about it, I think. and
John?
It was a maybe.
Yeah.
I was hoping we could actually revisit a few of the warrant articles, the budget committee.
Revisit them right now.
Um,
Really?
Well, do you want to know the ones that,
Have a seat.
Yeah.
Come on down.
Join the conversation.
First of all, before we go any further, thank you for your dignity at that meeting. You have always come through for the town, so thank you. I just wanted, this is Lloyd Wood looking you in the eye saying thank you.
I appreciate that, thank you. And thank you for your input. Anyway, the 3 warrant articles that I'm hoping to revisit are certainly this one, because we did have 2 that were, myself and John, a little on the fence. I was thinking more along the lines of 75 rather than 50, but I'd take 50. It's just where the discussion went. I thought, well, okay, we'll revisit. The second warrant article that, and I think the rest of them passed, but Lloyd knows I went in to have a conversation with Adam about the fire truck. That was clearly answered here today for me, so to revisit that, I can go back in on that. And what was the other one?
Paving?
Paving, yes. There was a motion made to double the amount.
Right.
But I know that there are probably 4 of us that would look at adding more to that budget. But one of the things that I didn't hear you talk about today, which was a concern I know for 2 of the members, is some clarification. Why do we put the road down and then put the top coat or seal it the next year? That was brought up at the meeting. Why aren't we doing, for instance, all of one road versus half of this one and half of this one?
Well,
and goes back
I think we did address it a bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
What Jim said is that when you lay the base coat down and you give it a year, Okay, it goes through the cycle, you get freeze and thaw, and you come back the next year and you put the top coat on. Sometimes there's going to be some little irregularities in the surface that have worked themselves in during that year. If you put both coats down the first year, all right, then you have what you have. Whereas if you wait a year to put the top coat down, it allows you to level out anything that may have settled a little bit.
Okay.
And take a second crack at
Okay,
it.
whereas the argument was that, well, it experiences the weather and there might be some deterioration before that top coat. is
Yeah,
put on.
and I think what Jim has said, I think he said this today, I remember having this conversation with him in the past, is that the biggest risk you have at leaving just the base coat for too long is the edges breaking down.
Okay,
Okay, that the, you know, the middle of the pavement,
Yeah, and
Doesn't-
it's New England. Paving and roads is not an exact science, and there's always going to be multiple schools of thought.
well,
And
There's a lot of flexibility in the road.
yeah,
right,
it depends.
and the biggest issue we have with roads, and one of the reasons that the town roads that we have rebuilt have less of an issue than the state roads, is that the ability to withstand frost heaves and to make it through the repetitive weather cycles is very much determined on the road base and the drainage. So, and a lot of the roads we have start out as wagon paths or whatever, and you just paved over the top. Some roads, I know in Wolfboro, I don't, just because I've been told, I have no idea here, suffer from the fact that they were corduroy roads and have been
Yes.
paved over. So now they got these logs underneath them.
And then there's-
Yeah.
Well, we had that in 19 Mile Bay.
Yeah.
The bridge there,
Yeah.
but in the concrete roads, I mean, South Wolfboro is always a thump.
It's tipping now.
Thump, thump.
Yeah, right,
So
yeah,
they're all a little
yeah.
different.
Yeah.
So, you know,
There's another part that's a balancing act. And I'm going back 6 years in this chair, 17 budget committee and whatnot. The Skip Hurt report pointed out that we pay $32 an hour for wages. It's never gone up since Jim Beam took over at midterm. We don't pay retirement.
We don't have any town highway.
Well, that's right. I'm in a neighboring town just last week where it is half our size. And all 5 full-time members of the highway department have their own 4-wheel drive pickup truck with a snowplow.
Mm.
Thank God we don't have that. And you heard Jim here, well, guys, I'm trying to, cut down on cement and like that. And he obviously is doing something right because he's been reelected 3 times.
Well, and
When it comes to the pavement, I have his permission, and I ask, when I go to TAC committee, I have a list of 1 or 2 questions. I ask 25 to 30 other road agents and town managers. One was yellow lines, and he handled that. One was mowing. Catch basins was another. The next one is going to be, is there a difference whether you pave 2 weeks apart or a year apart? I'll ask that question, so.
well, I know that did come up in regards to why we pave the way we do, but I think the main school of thought coming out of it was that we don't have enough in that budget. But then there are a few of us that are thinking, well, we can put a lot more in that budget. Is there time to do a lot more?
You saw the paperwork that I did. I was there at that meeting. I listened to what your people had to say, and they are receptive to investing in our roads.
Yes.
But in fairness, your committee needs to know, well, wait a minute. This $17,000 to do this road, and it's 22 to do that. Can you give us something specific?
Well-
Which is their job.
And to have the culverts rolled into that, and, all of that makes sense, or maybe a study on our roads, like we have the culvert study.
Well,
When I was an alderman in Texas, we didn't we used to walk the roads to decide what we were going to pave, what we were just going to put a Band-Aid on. And then we started bringing in the local university to take core samples and
What a
really
difference.
talk to us about how we should be doing our roads. And it made a big difference.
Well, I don't think there's enough information for us to
No.
move. I mean, we can move a bit, and I'm willing to move a bit, but I'm not willing to double that budget without a lot more
Oh, no.
information.
I personally am not willing to add on to the budget today until we have more information.
Yeah, and that comes from you. I think all of us are worried about Shirley Way, but to not do Durgan and Brown and to bump something else in,
Yeah.
that's up to you guys.
Yeah.
Well, and
Durgan, I think you gotta do,
yes.
because it's like a throughway.
Now, to
Right.
show you how
Right.
Jim has compromised a little bit and has worked with the town, he can do it for a little bit savings, but when you compact the side of the road, his machine only compacts it down 2 inches because it's handheld. They have the machine that compacts it down 5 to 8. And the people on Durgan Road and some of my family members, they traditionally was being dug up by the mail vehicles. No one's, and those are hills there, and even with this bad weather, they've stayed in place. So that's why I included it in my statistics.
Bottom line is, I think we'll be revisiting some of the warrant articles. So,
Yeah, because I don't want,
If we, I'd like to address your concern about the Article 17, the health insurance money, and is 50,000 enough? I view this as something to be there to help us address a huge change in health insurance premium that might come. Not that if we put 50,000 in there this year, that we would use that 50,000 next year. That's there to help us go forward and smooth out the unexpected bumps. So
you wouldn't be using it for any increase that came along. My concern when I
I don't
was
think,
speaking.
there's not enough money there to cover
Exactly.
an annual increase necessarily. So my view is it's there, it wouldn't necessarily be all pulled out next year. Because if it is, then you got nothing.
I mean, look at this year, for instance, we were able to figure out a way to have the health insurance premium dollars go down.
Right.
Well, obviously, we wouldn't pull anything out of that trust in a down movement. But let's say we look backwards and the average increase over the last 20 years has been 6%. And for some reason, next year's is 10%. Well, we should really look at that 4% spread as a spike, and maybe we take part of that 50 out to address that spike, but not just to pay the health insurance premiums.
Okay.
I mean, that would be my.
So it could just sit, it's, in looking at some of the other concerns that committee members had, another argument put forth was, well, she didn't think that we should put money away for things that we budget for in the operating budget.
We do that all the time.
Well, Helen's argument was, we know we're going to have health insurance. We should.
And just to, and I know Helen doesn't understand this when I explain it, so maybe you can explain it better. But when our health insurance premiums change in November, it's too late. It's after the taxes have been set. So we're gonna wait a year, but come September the following year, we're gonna take a certain amount of money out of our undesignated fund balance to make our tax rate work for our people. And it's gonna include a conversation about what happened with the health insurance last year. So what this is doing is it's being proactive. In other words, if we know that there's a $75,000 increase or $100,000 increase in our health insurance premiums, we've got a fund available for us to offset that, as opposed to waiting till the next time we review the tax rate, which would be the following September, to take money out of the undesignated fund balance to moderate the tax increase premised upon that health insurance.
And I think most of us understand that. Then the concern was, is this going to be a warrant article we have every year? Let's say you deplete it next year. You have to use that whole 50,000.
I don't see that happen, but let's say we
But
did.
it could,
Let's say,
or even half of
let's
it.
say we do, then we have this warrant article again.
Okay.
I mean, that's what we're here for, is to ask the voters questions.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I mean, is this something you'd like us to do? If they say no, then fine, we won't do that.
I think it's fair to say that the three boards of selectmen on their private time and in their previous lives, I learn something every day from these people. They haven't operated in a vacuum, and whether you're private sector or public sector, benefits and insurance costs. The first thing is, we have the bronze plans here, it's nothing extravagant. That's number one. Number two is, through my training and background, I deal with a couple people called HEB associates, that towns hire them to go find the best people. And one of them's a hockey ref with me, and he says, you know, Lloyd, where these consortiums go, like Primex and whatnot, we're down to 2 vendors for them to negotiate with. And I said, what do you think? And he says, Lloyd, by next year there'll be 1 in the state. And he says, don't quote me, he can't guarantee it, but isn't it amazing? That type of thing. One, I thought I was gonna have to take a year or 2 and be quiet and sit on my hands and, learn my job. And the first year that I was here, within a year, along came January 1st, well, Municipal Budget Act. We can't spend it at a different rate. These pay raises retroactive March 1st. Very next day, Kathy Pounder came to me and said, Lloyd, you didn't know this and none of us did, but this is an aberration year. The Bush tax cuts evaporated January 1st. For the first time in recorded history, the state changed its retirement other than July 1st, and our health care insurance changed other than in November. He says every one of the employees in town, all 12 of us, have taken a $17 hit a week in our pay. Boy, I changed my tune in a hurry.
I guess
it's a fluid situation.
Set on the 50.
I don't mind taking it to town meeting, even if we go to 70. I actually asked for 100, but 50 is
Yes.
fine. But I'm a little reluctant to take a major voting split on that issue to the town. I mean, if it's, 4-3 or something.
Well,
I mean, it just doesn't, unless we can convince more of our budget people that this is a good idea,
Yeah.
I just assume.
That's a very wise move.
I
yes.
think we'll revisit that one.
Okay.
The other issue you're going to revisit is the comments about the truck, Jack's truck.
Yes, and I walked in at the tail end of his presentation just now. I was hoping I could get a copy of what he gave to you
Yes.
from
And
Karen
there'll be
for the
more.
meeting, and, yeah.
Well, I will, I guess I will offer this opinion, and I mentioned it to Jack the other day. When he said, yeah, this year it had this, and now I've got $1,800 worth of repair facing me, and if we're gonna keep this truck, probably in the next year, another $3,000 to fix this. What that tells me is 10 years is too long to keep that vehicle. I mean, we rotate cruisers every 8 years, and occasionally we get into a maintenance issue late in the game on that. If we had replaced this truck this year or last year, then you have not only the cost to keep it running safely and reliably, but you have the availability of a vehicle. Now, fortunately, we're in a situation where, in the short term, Jack has agreed to use his personal vehicle to do his town business until the situation gets sorted out. We can't do that with fire apparatus,
Right.
or with police, huh?
Give them a bucket.
Yeah, or with police cruisers. But if we had that vehicle on an 8-year replacement schedule, then we're not having the conversation we have today. And I know Jack well enough and have watched how he operates his vehicle over time. No, he doesn't beat the vehicle up.
No, he doesn't.
And he always stays up with the maintenance going along. But the vehicle spends its whole life
He
out
pays attention
outdoors.
to budgets overall. I
Right.
can remember year before last when he came and said, well, I'm watching it here because next year I know I'm gonna need a computer.
Mhm.
That kind of thing. He just really.
Turn down a pay raise,
Yeah.
or a double one. The
Try
other-
to.
The other thing is, and it's not directly related, but that vehicle's more than paid for by income from his department.
Mhm.
Well, and even on an 8-year schedule, you're down to a $4,000 a year cost.
Yes.
And if you take the $1,800 out of that, I mean, the difference between a new vehicle cost and this vehicle cost is not that great.
Yeah.
If you look, factor in the repairs.
Mhm.
So it's, yeah, I'm not in favor of keeping things forever and wearing
Yeah,
out.
but
It
on
just
both
doesn't-
Jack's truck and fire engine too, if I can just,
A fire engine too, I mean, I would have engaged Guy the other night, but it just didn't seem.
well, but and for me, I thought I wanted more information.
Mhm.
And Lloyd, I stopped by, but he wasn't there, and you would have taken me over to talk to it, but I really wanted to talk to Adam about it. Sorry, Lloyd.
No problem. Well, he's the advocate for his department.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah, so I didn't
understand that.
have the information then that I was able to get today.
Right.
You see,
in
this is the
regards to
second
that.
fire truck that the frame is separated on.
Yeah,
And Adam's background was all those years running ambulances in 4 towns for Brian Lloyd. And he also, that's what he went to school in Flow Tech for.
but I think that the budget committee should have all of this information, and that's why, no matter how the vote went.
I held my tongue because he was doing yeoman's work and
But
he
it's, you know,
represents us.
it's a $22,000 or $25,000 or $26,000 a year expense. You know,
It
it's
is.
$500 a
It
year to
is.
have a fire engine in the
Yes.
house.
But when you add up all of those warrant articles, you start to think,
But when you
oh, my
add them all,
goodness.
we're actually increasing the budget by about $93,000 in actual expenses.
Yeah.
And we've got about $96,000 worth of unspent money from last year that we're adding to the undesignated fund balance, which,
The operating
if
budget.
Helen were here, I would rekindle my argument about her ratios.
Yes, the operating budget is up slightly less than 2% over last year, and that's with the warrant articles for the fire vehicles moving into the operating budget. That's number one. Number two is warrant articles are up $176,000 over last year, and that involves doing something with the library and something with a fire truck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but your ongoing
And
expenses,
something
Yes.
with the bridge.
your
Yes.
cash flow, I mean, it's 2019's budget where we have to really look at cash flow, because now you're gonna have payments on the library and payments on a fire truck, or you already have.
Next
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
But now we have to look at, you know, what's excessive as far as warrant articles.
Mhm.
I quietly have spoken to Helen. It's apples and apples, not apples and oranges, because the
The
hateful eight,
executive's always gonna disagree with accounting.
the hateful
I guess
eight takes whatever figure they can jockey.
I think Helen would be perfectly, she would welcome, and she has, because I used to call her all the time and say, I don't get this. And she and I would sit down and go over it. She will sit down and explain where she's coming from.
Yeah, no.
But that is
she
why I
needs-
say we need to compare,
She needs to add a line.
well, I think adding a
That's-
line
That's
is,
a simple.
but
idea.
let's talk to her about it,
Yeah,
okay?
just
All right.
what, yeah.
Of all the people who spoke at that meeting, she, like you, were the softest, so. Did you get a copy of the White Horse paperwork?
I did not.
Okay, make a copy and get that back to me if you want.
If you give me my stuff,
Oh, for the warrant article.
that would be
Well,
great.
while we have her captive here, anything else for warrant articles? Go ahead.
The Sodom Road Bridge, we've discussed going back to whether or not you want to send it out to bid and the amount and things like that.
That's not gonna change the article though, right?
You're gonna stay with the 88?
Well,
88.5?
I know.
until we know
One was
anything,
gonna
until we know
research
something better. The advantage to putting it out for bid now and having
It's gonna
a bid before then is then we have a firm number to go to town meeting.
And we can change it on the floor.
Yeah, or change it, if
At public hearing.
we have it before, well, if we have the bid opening and it's bid selected before the deadline for for finalizing the warrant, then it can be changed, otherwise it'd be changed on the floor at
Well, we're not
town
gonna
meeting.
select a bid until after town meeting anyway, right? I mean, I don't know that we could.
Well,
I mean, let's say 4 or 5 companies bid on repair. We're not gonna decide who's gonna do the repair until after town meeting.
How do we get the price?
You ask them for it.
Okay.
And put
But you could even bring it
put
to
an RFP,
public
yeah.
hearing.
You don't have to award the bid.
Yes, I don't know that this board could encumber the next board's. You have to hire this person one day after town meeting. Only that board can.
Yeah.
Yes, you are correct. Bill.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I think we should put it on our,
Yeah.
talk to HEB. and-
Sure.
I mean, we might as well get the process moving.
All right.
And it
We'd
makes
like to get
sense
it
for
done
us
in
to
summer.
request the information rather than pay them $7,000 or $8,000 to do it, right?
Yeah, as long as we know what to ask.
Yes,
Right.
Include.
yes.
So the results would come here, not through HEB? Because I know that was a concern of yours.
Well, do we have the money to let HEB do it?
It's up to you guys. It's
Wasn't it
six-
gonna
I
be
think it's
$6,000, $7,000,
$6,000 or
$8,000 for
$7,000,
them to run the bid process?
yeah. Mhm.
I think that's what they were talking, $6,000
Yeah.
to
Put it
handle
on the
the
street.
bid process.
Where'd the $6,000 come from?
Well, it come from us.
I know, but I want that more specifically, where in the budget is it coming out?
I don't, it's not in the budget.
Which one of Chip's pockets are you gonna
Yeah,
take that?
no, it's not in the budget, so we have to add that in for doing that.
The warrant article stays as it is until we have some new information, correct?
That's correct.
So
It does.
that's there. How we manipulate or handle or receive the process, we're still thinking about, correct? But the
Well, I think we could get, there's a couple of things happening here. I think we could maybe get a better idea on the actual cost prior to town meeting, because a lot of bidding's gonna happen after town meeting.
And there's a way of
A lot
requesting
different-
prices.
A lot of different towns are gonna ask for a lot of different
Yes.
projects. And we could set ourselves up for getting a preferred price, maybe. And it's gonna cost $6,000 from HEB. Is there some place we can get the $6,000? I guess that's my question. Can we take it out of something else?
I think you add it into the Docks and Burgess line.
Are we prepared to make that decision today?
Yeah, I think it would be nice to leave here today knowing that our office is gonna contact HEB and put this out on the street. Because they know how to describe the repair, and they know where to put it in order to get the most effective bidding. Putting it out of them.
And people are happy with HEB? I am.
At this point, if we're gonna have somebody put it out to bid for us, it would be HEB. We haven't talked with anybody else about it. And,
I mean, we can put the engineering out to bid after we get the money. I don't have a problem doing that.
well,
But, you know, at that point, whoever comes in is gonna have to recreate what HEB has done. And that's
it's already
gonna-
engineered. The
Yeah,
work is
that's
already
right.
engineered.
Right,
Okay.
that engineering is owned by HEB.
No,
Yeah,
No, they did it for us. We paid them for that engineering work.
I know, but they're gonna tell you that's their engineering. If they're anything like
No,
everybody else in the world.
No, it's, that
So-
information's
That's
our.
our
So we can
document.
take that and put it out to bid directly.
Right, we can put it out to bid, but they're the engineer on that deal. If we put the engineering out to bid,
No, the engineering's done.
no, well,
It's the construction we're gonna put out to bid.
construction engineering, the review of the deal,
Right, and typically on a project like this, you would have a third party do the monitoring of the work.
Yes.
Not the company that designed it.
We had Norway
You'd-
Plains to
Okay.
Layton.
Right, you'd have a different engineering company monitor the project
which
than
is
the one that
probably a
did.
great idea, but that's not how I understood HEB's proposal, but that's fine.
Well, they'd like to monitor it as well. I'm just, typically you're better off using a disinterested third party to make sure that,
Yeah, it saves you money, but it gets a better
Well,
product.
Not so much as it save you money, but you have somebody involved in the process that doesn't have a dog in the hunt, okay? This is somebody that's independent from the guy that did the design work, or from the customer, that is verifying that the work is being done to the design and meets the state requirements, both of which are important.
So should we increase docks and bridges by $6,000?
Let's do it.
I have the following. My information is that account 4313, highways and streets, docks and bridges, is currently at $6,500. That's what I have on my paperwork. I would move that we add a line, Sodom Road Bridge, $6,000, which would bring the total to $12,500.
I'll second that.
Is my math correct, folks?
I don't have the current,
Yeah, I don't
the
either.
2018 budget in front of me. I'm just looking at last year's,
I can grab it.
but
No, I'll just go last year's.
do we want to create a new line, or do we want to add it into an existing line? The reason I ask that is, every time you add a new
Yeah.
account, it goofs things up year to year in terms
Yeah.
of
I'd say we just add it to the.
add it to the
current
permitting line or to the docks and bridges line.
The docks and bridges.
Yep.
And then, I mean, what happens if the warrant article fails? You don't want to be entertaining conversations about why you're spending that $6,000 because we're not doing Sodom Road. I mean, it just,
Now, under discussion, do we want the $6,000 added to the warrant article?
no, because we want
We ought to spend that now.
Yeah, we want
to
to
get
spend
this
it now.
work done.
Go ahead.
Is the dock. Currently, we're at 6,500 for the highways and streets. Oh, yeah, that's the right one.
Mhm.